Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Stephen here. Rashbi, I know you can't get rid of me. Here I am once again. Hope you had a great week and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And, Mother's Day could have been a Jewish holiday. Let me remind you that in Judaism, we hold women to very high esteem. Women are superior spiritually to men because they give birth and because they have this innate higher sense of morals than men do. Many times in the Torah, they talk about how the women really talk the men out of doing something dumb, like going along with Korach in a rebellion or other things. And women actually are absolved. They don't have. They're excused from having to perform time-based mitzvot like praying and putting on tefillin. They say women want to do it. They want to pray. Okay, you can pray, but you don't have to. That's the whole point, because women have that innate higher sense of spirituality and morality anyway, and that's why women really are the people that imbue social mores and ethics to the children, and that's why women are in the home while the men are out hunting and trapping animals for whatever, for food, etc., or farming. The women are home taking care of the home because that's really goes along with their nature. So, happy Mother's Day. Kind of a long, involved explanation. Also, this weekend, family services. Potluck at 6, regular service at 7. The service will be oriented around the kids. It will be the last family service of the school year. Next time will be September, October. This year's leap year, so we have the extra month, pushes everything back a bit. So we may have a family service in September. I don't know. We'll let you know when the time comes. Saturday morning, we have our regular service. We'll be doing Parashat Emor, which we'll be talking about, and we have an event going on Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. Sunday is the last day of school, so going into our summer schedule. Okay, so also just Saturday morning, please be there to help Sherry Reeder and Esmeralda Chalfant. They do this each year to honor their father's yortzeit, the anniversary of their death. There'll be a special Saturday morning oneg kiddush. Yes, you can eat. That's why we're gonna bring you in, but with food. Kind of bribe you a little bit. And speaking of bribing you with food, we're looking ahead. It's a little bit of ways, but this year Shavuot, Erev Shavuot, which is the end of the counting of the Omer, and also the time when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments. It honors both, and we're going to talk about that in this particular portion in a minute. But what we decided we're going to do, I think Temple Beth Shalom is doing their annual gathering. There's going to be some speakers. I probably be there too. It's not set, but we're in the planning stages of it. So what we're going to do, Congregation B'nai Chaim, we'll do that in our Saturday morning service. So we'll do an abbreviated service, maybe make it an hour and 15 minutes, do some key prayers, and then we'll do the Torah service with the minyan, and then we'll leave time so we can gather around, we'll eat, we'll discuss Torah. Now, as you all know, I like the idea as a rabbi of making Torah relevant. So in terms of Torah topics, we can certainly talk about things like the holidays, about maybe the sacrifices and what do we do now. We could talk about some of the ethics of the Ten Commandments. But for me, I find for you folks, and you've given me that feedback, you want to see the relevance of Torah to your lives. And why not? I mean, that's what a religion's all about. A religion shouldn't be over here and our lives are over here. They should be intermingled. And that's why, we're going to get into this in a second, again, that's why the holidays have different meanings. So come with your questions. You want to hear about anger? What does the Torah talk about anger? What do the sages talk about things like smoking cigarettes? All that's in there. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll address that. So please come to that Saturday morning service. Enjoy. We'll talk, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So with that, we've wasted a little bit of time here, but let's talk a little bit about what Parashat Emor is all about. It talks about the Cohenim and how they have to be pure. If a Kohen had a physical defect, they were not allowed to officiate in the ceremonies, in the sacrificial ceremonies that went on in the temple. They could certainly eat of the teruma, the portion that's holy, that's given to the Kohenim, but they themselves had to be physically pure. And think about this. If you have a Kohen, and one of the things that they discuss is, and it seems kind of almost petty, but if you've got a Kohen that doesn't have that ridge, where the nose just comes straight down, and they describe in the Torah, the sages describe it, that you could theoretically apply eye makeup, not that a man would, but like just by going right across the eyes, then that Kohen was unfit to officiate. Think about it. If you are an Israelite and you're bringing your sacrifice to the temple, you want to know that that Kohen, that priest, is officiating on your behalf for the sacrifice. And that's where your thoughts and your intention needs to be. Talmud's all about intention. If that's being officiated by a Kohen that has a physical deformity, what are you going to be thinking about? You're going to be thinking about the physical deformity. You're not going to be, your head is not going to be on the procedure, on the ritual. So they want their Kohanim to be pure. Now, along with that, it spends some time talking about the holidays. And the Hebrew word for the holidays is moadim. Moed means kind of meeting time. It's like a seed. It's that one part of the week that's distinct, or one part, that time of meeting. So think about it. We had the three different pilgrimage festivals. We had Passover, Pesach. We had Shavuot, after the counting of the Omer, 7 weeks after Passover. And then in the 7th month, in the middle of the month, and we know it's the middle of the month, we know it's the 15th because there's a full moon, then we have Shavuot, Sukkot, the time of the Festival of the Huts, which is another pilgrimage festival. So we've got this duality in the festivals and in the agriculture. One of the exceptions might be Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the 7th month. And the Torah really talks about it as the time of the sounding of the shofar. And the idea of the shofar is, awaken, have your soul awaken, and come back to Hashem with obeying the commandments, or going along with the commandments. I don't like to use the word obey because that means that you do it without thinking about it, and it's just kind of blind. And in Judaism, we want to know about these things. We want to study because we want to know what Hashem's intention is, because when we know that, we can carry out His will a lot better. So we've got this duality. We've got the idea of Passover, for example, acknowledging and celebrating our release from captivity, our freedom from bondage. But it's also when we start the harvesting. So you see how, and Shavuot, 7 weeks later, is the time of the first harvest, the barley harvest. We're counting the Omer. That's a unit of measure. And what we're counting is the measure of the barley. See? So it's the first harvest, and there's some first fruits. Sukkot is really kind of the end of the harvest festival. So we're celebrating that Hashem took care of us while we were in the wilderness, marching around. And we're also acknowledging the harvest. So you see how there's this commingling of the spiritual and the physical. So we talk about in the morning blessings how Hashem gives us what we need. And that's a spiritual, it's also a physical. He gives us the goods, the opportunity, the resources to live our life and take care of ourselves. He also gives us that spiritual essence to give life meaning and to make sure that we're working toward being ethical, moral people. See? So hence we've got the duality of the spiritual and the physical. We've got the idea that we're thanking Hashem, that we can lead these free lives, that we can go out our business and earn a living. And then we've got the spirituality where we're giving thanks. We're taking part, the teruma, the portion. And hence this is where we've led up to. We've talked about the sacrifices. We've talked about the purity of the Cohenim to conduct the sacrifices. And now we're talking about the venue, the in which we are conducting the sacrifices. We're talking about those pilgrimage festivals, plus the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, and the 10 days later, which is Yom Kippur, the day that we afflict ourselves. And that's really what the Torah says. So how we afflict ourselves is really kind of interpretive. Now, when we afflict ourselves, what do? We give our bodies a rest from food and drink and pleasure and all that, and we just delve right into the spirituality. So hence, that's how we observe that. So, see you at services Saturday to honor Sherry and Esmeralda and their fathers, and to honor Torah. Look forward to seeing you. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom, and see you over the weekend.